Hello 8th graders, I want to take just a moment to explain some of the answers on your density quiz. As I go along, I need you to have your quiz in front of you, and if you have any questions for me that you think of while listening to this, I need you to please write those down so that you can ask me later when I get back. I'm not going to answer every single question on this paper. I'm not going to go over every single question, rather, but I do want to start and just talk about a few of them. Number 2 is where I'm going to begin. On this question, what I was going for was asking you to tell me which way of finding volume would be best for a regular geometric solid like a pyramid. The answer that I was going for was the displacement method. And the reason is because a geometric solid has, in real life, has imperfections, maybe little scratches. It's not a perfect geometric solid, so water fills those gaps. And it'll give you a very good volume measurement. A lot of you wrote on your tests, however, that, well, math is perfect and you can't mess up with math, and some other people said there's less room for human error since you're using an equation. Well, I want to argue with you a little bit on that one and see if I can convince you otherwise. Let's imagine for just a second that you are measuring a cube, and on your cube you're going to be doing length times height times width. And if you're going to be doing that with a ruler, that's 3 measurements. And you would have more than one measurement if you were doing the pyramid as well. But for a cube, that one's pretty straightforward. Everyone knows a cube, and most people have this equation memorized. If you were to use that same cube, but you're going to use a graduated cylinder, there's my graduated cylinder, you only need to make 1 measurement. And as far as room for error, 1 measurement is going to be far more forgiving than 3. However, I feel as though this question was a little bit unfair because I led you by saying geometric solid. And because of that, I have decided to cut this question from the quiz. So these points neither counted for or against you. The next one that I want to point out and make some notes about is question number 3. In this question, Izzy accidentally grabbed the wrong eraser and she was trying to find the density. The answer that I was going for here was just right. And the reasoning for that would have been same material. If I said to Izzy, hey, find the density of this eraser, and I meant to hand her the 5 centimeter cubed one, but she accidentally grabbed the 10 centimeter cubed one, they're the same type of eraser, so she should get the same density. However, some of you put down too high. If you have the following justification, I accepted it. And the people who did that wrote something along these lines. They said, well, if she took the mass of the bigger eraser, so if she took the mass of the bigger one, but assumed the volume of the one that I told her, then she would get density that was too high. So if I said to her, hey Izzy, find the density of this 5 centimeter cubed eraser, and she accidentally grabbed the 10 centimeter cubed one and never bothered to check the volume, but she did check the mass, in that case she would get too high. So that's how I'll accept those 2 answers. The next one that I want to go to is on the next page, number 10. In this one, Simon is a sloppy measurer, and he is trying to find the density of maple syrup. In this question, he is pouring the syrup and it accidentally drizzles along the outside of the cylinder. In this question, the one that I was going for was too high, but just like the last question, there is another possibility that I have been convinced of, and we'll get to that in just a second. In order for the density to be too high, what it would have had to happen was that he would have had to fill the graduated cylinder so that it went to the 20 millimeter mark, and that plus the spillage would equal more mass than what he should have had. He would have assumed 20 milliliters because that's where he filled it to, but ignoring the spillage would have meant ignoring the fact that there was too much mass, and that would have given him too high of a density measurement. However, just like the last one, I would have accepted just right on the following argument if you justified your answer this way. It seems a little far-fetched, but you could argue it, and I'm sure some of you would. Let's assume for just a second that Simon already measured out the volume. If he already measured out the 20 milliliters of syrup and then for some reason was finding the mass by putting another graduated cylinder onto the scale and then adding that syrup to the second graduated cylinder, in that case he would have already figured out, he's assuming the volume was correct from the first measurement, so he's got 20 milliliters, and if that was true, no matter where the syrup fell, even if it was outside of the cylinder, it's still within the pan of the scale, so he would have got the right mass for the right volume. So if that was your argument, that's how you could have gotten points for the just right argument. The last one that I want to go to is the last question. For this one, I just want you to know how the points were assigned. Each one of these following bullet points is going to be worth 1 point. If you had a place to collect mass and volume on your table, you got 1 point. Another one was more than one trial. Even if it was just 2, that was the second point. The third was if you had a place to collect averages or calculate averages. The fourth was if you had a correct number for your density, or at least close enough. And the final one was for units, and that could have been either in grams per milliliter or grams per centimeter cubed. Again, if you have any questions about anything that you've seen, you need to write those down and let me know when I see you next.